we're going to talk about The Idol. It's a show being developed at HBO Max by Sam Levinson. Recently, people have been talking about it because it seems to have been in production hell for a long time. And now we know why. It is because Sam Levinson chose to basically overhaul the show in the middle of production to rewrite and reshoot a bunch of the scenes that he will now like use to insert his perverted obsessions. And what I mean by that is like not just the content of nudity and sexuality that you might expect from a modern show these days, but like going beyond even that level to the point where it's just like made everyone on the production set feel like suspicious of what he's actually doing. So this article from the Rolling Stone has gotten a bunch of anonymous people from on the production to comment on it and like how, you know, the original message and meaning of the show has evolved into just like what they called torture porn. One person said, this quote really annoyed me, and it annoyed Brett too, I know, because he posted on Twitter. They said, "What I signed up for was a dark satire of fame and the fame model in the 21st century. The things that we subject our talent and stars to, the forces that put people in the spotlight, and how that can be manipulated in the post-Trump world. However," they add, "it went from satire to the thing it was satirizing." So, I don't know what they meant by the post-Trump world and how it's any different
Why do
being famous pre and post-Trump. That part was BS. What they were saying about it being a satire, but then becoming what it was satirizing, I totally understand. So like Sam Levinson, if you don't know, this show, they've released a ton of like teaser trailers for it because they're just stalling at this point. But basically it stars Lily Rose Depp and The Weeknd. They also have like other people like Troye Sivan in it. And then Jennie from Blackpink, just like people that are going to get built-in audiences to watch it. But it's about Lily Rose Depp as this pop star. She meets The Weeknd's character, who is secretly a cult leader, and he like starts to take control of the trajectory of her career. So Sam Levinson seems to think that he's about to make the next Eyes Wide Shut, and then, you know, he himself is creating this example of like the lame reality, which is that they're not having these like shadowy, ritualistic masquerade balls. They're just, writing weird, perverted sexual scenarios into TV shows that everyone would feel awkward both filming and watching. Another person on the production said, "It was like any R-word fantasy that any toxic man would have in the show. And then the woman comes back for more because it makes her music better."
Who has the R-word fantasy?
They're saying that like it's written from the perspective of a man.
Because the R-word fantasies are not typically the male
R-word.
fantasy.
Well, it's Levinson's for sure. So if you've watched Euphoria, and we like asked this in the poll, did you like Euphoria if you watched
79% say they didn't watch it.
Yeah, I voted no. And to be
Did
fair,
you watch that?
I have not watched an episode, but I've seen trailers. And a while ago, I watched Requiem for a Dream. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that movie just really that movie messed me up, and I just did not enjoy it. And when it comes to like the depravity of the human spirit with drug use and sex, like it's just not something that, to me, that's a horror movie. To me, that is pure terror.
Would you say like, Euphoria is the same?
That's what that's what I'm saying. Like Euphoria to me, like I could be wrong. I haven't watched it, but to me, every indication I've asked people, and they're like, yeah, it's basically all it is. It's just like drugs and nightlife and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not interested.
Well, yeah, I always said this about Sam Levinson on the show, that I think it's weird he would go out of his way in a show about high schoolers to depict them doing all of these weird porn-like sexual scenarios that honestly, like Gen Z is really not engaging in. They're partying less.
No, they
high schoolers are partying less, drinking less, socializing
don't
less,
believe the
and
polls.
having less sex than previous generations.
Don't believe the polls. They just gave Zendaya $1 million an episode. That's her new contract for that show. So
well, yeah, maybe Gen Z is watching
they are
it.
in love with
but
that.
it's not something realistic.
If they
to their
aren't relating,
experience.
they're being inspired.
Like if the justification is that we're putting this on screen because it represents their experiences, that's just not true. Like
if
it doesn't really
if it
bear
doesn't
out in
match
reality.
their experiences, it's inspiring them.
Totally,
like,
yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
I mean, I
But
think
it
it's more
weirds
chicken
people
or
out
the
when
egg.
it's like we're watching people that are like playing underage high schoolers
I think
doing sexual things.
it weirds you know, me and you out. I think a lot of people are eating this stuff up. Whatever,
They are, yeah.
They're not even. It's not even.
But it's
crossing
also
their
a sort of
mind
situation
or,
where I think it's playing a psychological trick on the audience where it's trying to make you feel creepy for watching it. When in reality, like, they're the ones thinking up and creating all of this content.
Well, I
you
do
know?
feel. I like even just like the premise of the show makes me feel creepy.
Yeah.
That's why I have never watched it.
That's why I don't like it.
Uncomfortable. Like
Sam Levinson is like beginning to make a reputation for himself just off of like the shock factor stuff. Just seeing the reaction that he can get out of, you know, putting as much explicit, dark stuff in his shows as possible. And then making anyone who criticizes it think that they just don't understand art.
Right, I
know?
totally believe this one's going to go to the next level because if you've ever seen any of the Weeknd's music videos, they're weird, they're creepy.
Yeah.
There's a high level of detail that goes into making them creepy.
Yeah, The Weeknd seems to want this show to become a show just about his own character. So he totally supported Sam Levinson waltzing into the project and replacing the showrunner that they had before. It said that he was the reason behind the shakeup and wanted to tone down the cult aspect of the storyline and pivot into something else entirely, dropping the, quote, feminist lens through which the show is being told as a result. Quote, it was like The Weeknd wanted one show that was all about him. Sam Levinson was on board with that. So I don't know. I don't think that this show would have been good coming from the feminist lens or from the, you know, narcissistic story about The Weeknd that it was like reshot into. I think it was going to be horrible regardless. And that HBO is just throwing money at anything that Sam Levinson makes because he's the moneymaker of Euphoria and he can do whatever he wants. And that's what a lot of people on the crew ended up realizing. He wasn't even sending information or scripts to HBO executives anymore at some point. And the general vibe was like, you know, what's HBO gonna do? Pull the plug? Yeah, right. If they want a third season of Euphoria, they'll give him what he wants. And we're just gonna shoot what we want. And if HBO has a problem with it, that's on them. So Sam Levinson now has license to just like infect like whatever entertainment he wants with all of these perverted themes that he is obsessed with. And just make it Euphoria season 3 alternative ending.
You know, people say that about at least with the perverted mind. Who's the guy that created American Horror Story? But
I can't remember.
All his shows he creates are real dark and effed up because it's not just like horror. It's always got to be this weird kink that's involved. You know, like there's this one season of American Horror Story where one of the main guys going around killing people wore this leather like sex suit. You know,
Ryan
like
Murphy and Brad Falchuk.
There you go, Ryan Murphy. And I've heard a lot of people talk about him that way. It's just how dark and perverted his mind is. Now, but he doesn't get the controversy though, because he has like a lot of people love working on that show because it's fun.
People get selectively offended about things,
yeah,
I think.
but he also like knows it's so absurd. You know,
Yeah.
part of it, it's kind of like the Fast and Furious movies. People realize it's ridiculous, but it's fun to make them. It's a fun watch, you know? People are having a good time.
I think like whether you're framing this as you know, it's like a toxic male, enacting his R-word fantasies, or a feminist show about a woman, self-actualizing and like finding herself in her sexuality. Those both of those ideas sound like dog shit to me, and I don't want to watch that.
Right.
And I also find it puzzling that HBO Max is supporting a show like this, which is like at a $75 million budget, both to shoot the first time and all over again a second time, when supposedly Warner Brothers is trying to cut costs right now.
Yeah.
Like massively. And he's just like literally flushing money down the toilet on what they call torture porn.
I was reading an article, and it's a big problem that like these studios, I mean, whether it's garbage like this that they're trying to create, or if it's like what was it, Superwoman?
What about
That got canceled. They got
Batgirl, yeah.
Batgirl.
That's the reason they cut it, though. It's like it's a write-off
But,
now.
Right. For whatever the reason is, you had this huge team that made this movie, and then all of a sudden there's just one little streaming service. It's like, no, just cut it. And it's just a crazy time that we're in. But we'll see. I think this could get the same treatment because look what's doing so well right now, The Last of Us. They might say, just let this ship sink and focus on that. Get ready for
and
season 2, 3.
And House of the Dragon did really well too.
Yeah, it did. There's something else. I know there's something else.
I don't understand how they make these decisions, because like it said, Euphoria season 1 had this budget, and with each season they raise the budget.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality isn't changing and the content isn't changing. What are you spending the money on then?
actors' contracts?
It's just the salaries of the people working on it. But after all, most of these people,
making more money.
Except for Zendaya, I would say most of them are known for being on Euphoria, and that's it.
Does HBO have ads or no?
I don't have ads on HBO, but you can get an
But like
ad
if you're
tier
watching
version.
HBO, like if you're watching Euphoria live at 9 p.m. or whenever it airs, is there ads?
on actual
There's no.
HBO, I have no idea. I only have I have HBO Max.
So and there's a way they quantify the increase in subscriptions. There's a way they see how much traffic is going to that show. So as it gets more and more popular each year.
Yeah, but this new show, The Idol, it had like $10 million per episode or something for a 6-episode series.
That's not that much.
Why 6 episodes? First of all,
$10 million
like,
isn't that much.
I'm really sick of seasons of these shows being like shorter and shorter, and people still can't like stay on board long enough.
I agree. Yeah, 60. If you think of it as a movie, it's a $60 million budget from a major studio. It's not that. That's pretty tiny.
The average network television episode costs like $7 to $8 million to make.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably more now.
And it's that's not that bad, especially considering Levinson's coming off. Even if it's controversial, he's hot right now.
Well, let's get to the controversy. So Levinson wrote scripts that were very disturbing, with gross like physical violence and weird sexual scenes between Lily Rose Depp and The Weeknd. So it says there were allegedly a scene where The Weeknd bashes in Depp's face and her character smiles and asks to be beaten more, giving The Weeknd's character an erection. This scene was never shot, says Inside Sources. And another scenario was for Depp not Johnny Depp, his daughter, to carry an egg in her private parts. And if she dropped or cracked the egg, then The Weeknd's character would refuse to R-word her, which sent Depp's character into a spiral, begging him to R-word her because she believed he was the key to her success. And the only reason that this scene was not filmed was because production couldn't find a way to realistically shoot the scene without Depp having to physically insert the egg.
This sounds like a South Park episode, straight up.
Like the level of absurdity we are reaching. And this source says, it was like, what is this? What am I even reading here? It was like sexual torture porn. And all their sources say Levinson intended to dramatically ramp up explicit content, and that's becoming his calling card. So he, has gotten backlash for gratuitous nudity in all of his other work, and it just seems to be something that he's fixated on continuing and pushing boundaries until someone pushes back, and then he's like, okay.
Does he hate actors and
Like
actresses?
it said like Sydney Sweeney talked about this and like alluded to it without like making him seem like the bad guy. She said there are moments where Cassie, her character, was supposed to be shirtless, and I would tell Sam, I don't really think that's necessary here. And he was like, okay, we don't need it. Like, there would be moments where it was totally unnecessary, and he's just seeing how far he can take things before somebody pushes back.
Yeah, maybe it's just
and usually
like
they won't, because he seems to be like the person, the darling of HBO Max, just because he made Euphoria.
That makes the whole story creepier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just funny how like these things are selectively enforced,
I mean, if you want to be edgy and write a story about the R word and talk about the things that society wants to talk about, don't make it this absurd story. Like, make it about like some serial, criminal that can't be caught. The detectives are trying everything to find him and they can't catch him. Show the real dark side of something that actually occurs in this world. But this is just ridiculous. Like what you've just read to me.
I mean, it seems like a desperate edgelord.
But it's also like he's lost his flair. Like it's just, it's like, it's not interesting, man.
He found Chloe Cherry for Euphoria by watching her in porn. Like,
what?
Who could have seen this coming?
That's
he's
crazy.
She was the character Faye in Euphoria, and that's basically like how she's launched her career in like mainstream entertainment. But he found her through porn. So like, obviously this guy, has some weird proclivities and fixations that everyone else is like kind of made uncomfortable by, but isn't willing to say anything because he's, the power player.
No, I like him. No, I'm just kidding.
Wasn't HBO though the off limits, like they'll show anything network like historically?
Not. I mean, it was the first like home movie channel, like where you pay and stuff, and so like you would see like I remember when I was like little kid, and like Revenge of the Nerds was on HBO, and like that you saw like bush and boobs and stuff in the first one, and so but it wasn't like porn.
Right.
Like I don't think you could ever get actual porn on cable without like paying
some
additional like something like that. I think you maybe had like Hustler had it. Probably was the first Hustler and Playboy were the first adult.
The problem now
channels,
is that the distinction between a normal TV show and porn is blurring, not only because of the amount of sexual content that they're putting in mainstream shows, but also because it's so poorly written that like normal storylines in normal TV shows are almost as bad as porn storylines. Like it's getting to that point where like it's all blending together.
I have a theory about the quality of entertainment that's coming out, and I don't want to get into it because it might be too political, but like really
say whatever.
Well, the thing is, I feel like the whole like the woke stuff is affecting the quality. It's like they're not just are the stories, hitting the points, but the hiring of people that are writing the stories. Like if you're hiring people based on any kind of quota, that means that you're not hiring people based on they can write good stories. So, and I feel like that's something that people are going to be noticing more and more in the entire like world, like, or not the entire world, but all over the West. Like you're going to notice that the quality of things that you get put together, the quality of service is going to be going down here in the U.S. People already complain about like McDonald's, and like you get your stuff gets messed up at the drive-through. That's going to become the norm for everything. It's harder to get people to come and work on your house, or if you have to get
it's impossible right
like
now. Yeah,
Tim's having all the problem getting the new building built. That's part. I feel like this is all. It is tied in with the supply chain stuff, but I also think that the fact that quality people, quality workers, people that have skill and a high skilled workers. I feel like that's going to be hurting a lot. And
or people who take pride in their work.
Yeah,
or think that it means anything.
Well, yeah, like Halo, the new Halo, like Halo Infinite. Like that's the biggest. It was the biggest video game name ever, right? Everyone knows who Halo is, and Microsoft made a whole ass company just for that game, and they have blown it so bad. It's probably
people are quitting. They're leaving.
Yeah, it's probably worse than they did. The 343 probably did worse with Halo than Disney did with Star Wars.
Oh.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.